Well, good morning. What a healthy crowd we have here in this place today. Word must have gotten out that Tim McCall was going to preach. And y'all are sitting there shocked, going, it's that same old guy. I am thrilled to see you in church today. If you're visiting with us for the first time, you picked a good Sunday to come. Because today I'm going to start a brand new sermon series entitled The Gift. In this series, we're going to become familiar with one of the greatest gifts we've ever been given. In this series, we're going to learn about and get to know the Holy Spirit. Hang on. I know what somebody just felt. I felt it. I felt you feel it. You felt a twinge of fear when I said that. Like, oh, no. You see, the Holy Spirit is often associated with fanatical churches. I'm going to guess that you've been to a church service or two that fits that description. And you saw some things happen that were confusing to you, maybe even frightening. And for that reason, you're thinking, Ronnie, I don't want our church to become one of those churches. The Holy Spirit also gets the credit for a lot of people's odd behavior. I want you to understand something. I'm not being critical here. I'm just stating facts. You with me? Okay. The Holy Spirit gets credit for a lot of people's odd behavior. I'm guessing that you occasionally watch religious television programs. If so, you've witnessed what I'm talking about. I lost a half a day's work this week YouTubing this, watching a lot of this. One of the things that I noticed happened quite a bit was, I would call it frantic dancing. Now, hey, I ain't got nothing against dancing. I wish I could dance. I envy everybody that can. But they call this dancing in the spirit. But I got to be honest with you. It looked more like, and I guess I am being a little bit critical here, it looked more like electrocution than dancing. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going somewhere with this. Don't think I'm just nailing people, just taking shots at people. In these clips, there were people passing out cold. I mean, boom, just passing out, hit the floor, thud. They said, that's the Spirit. Really? So he just knocks the fool out of you? Apparently that's, yeah. People getting caught away in something called holy laughter. YouTube it. Man, you listen to me. I'm giving you permission, even encouraging you, YouTube that one. People convulsing. I saw this one clip of a preacher. I won't use his name. Some of you are probably going to be familiar with the clip. He's preaching. He took his sport coat off. And he would walk over to a section of the audience, and he would take the sport coat, and he would go, whew, and when he did, 30, 40 people fall out cold. Then he'd go to this, boom, man, people were going down just like crazy. And then he explained to them, what's happening is, I'm imparting the Holy Spirit to you through my sport coat. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that ability, guys. I just don't have that ability. All of this strange behavior was, of course, credited to the Holy Spirit. They would say things like, the Spirit came over me and I just lost control. I had no earthly idea what I was doing. For those of you who have seen such antics, the subject of the Holy Spirit makes you a little uneasy because you don't want to act like that. With all due respect to those whose beliefs differ from mine, I want you to know the Holy Spirit does not make people act crazy. That's a fact. Go ahead and write that down. The Holy Spirit never made a human being act crazy. You say, how can you know that? I got a Bible. 1 Corinthians, The Apostle Paul wrote to the church at Corinth and said, stop acting crazy because God is not in that kind of ridiculous behavior. So who am I going to believe? I'm going to believe the book. There's a lot of misunderstanding and controversy surrounding the Holy Spirit. Therefore, I fear that pastors like me, we may have done a great disservice to our churches by avoiding the subject. Well, we're about to remedy that. Over the next few Sundays, we're going to open up the Bible and learn about the Holy Spirit. We're going to learn that the Holy Spirit is a person. I often hear people refer to the Holy Spirit as it. I felt it. That thought even crossed my mind when I was standing there during Dana's song. I'm thinking, man, I feel it. No. The Holy Spirit is not an it. The Holy Spirit is a person, and we're going to learn exactly who He is. The Holy Spirit is God. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Now, Ronnie, how can that be? The Bible teaches us that our God is a Trinity. He is one God who manifests Himself and operates through three distinct personalities: Father, Son, and Spirit. That's right. He is one God, three personalities, three in one. Now, some of you are saying, okay, can you explain that to us? No, I cannot. And I'm not alone. I like to listen to a lot of preaching, Tim Crocker. So this week I'm listening to J.D. Greer from Summit Church in Raleigh-Durham. He has his doctorate in theology. And this is what he said about the Trinity. I couldn't begin to explain it to you. All I know is that the God of the Bible has revealed Himself to be a Trinity, and I believe that and accept that. And now listen, if he's got a PhD, you know me, man. I was kicked out of a high school. That's about as far as I got to go. I certainly can't explain it. Our God is a Trinity, and the Spirit of God is a part of that Trinity. He is God. As God, He has infinite knowledge and unlimited ability. He is loving, gracious, merciful, and holy. We're going to learn that the Holy Spirit is always with us. And it's not just that He's always with us. He is in us. He lives inside of every Christian. When we were saved, He took up an eternal residence in our body. We're going to come to understand the Holy Spirit's role in our life. As a matter of fact, this is what we're going to learn. The Holy Spirit is to us what Jesus was to His disciples. You're going to, wait a minute. No, I promise you. We'll see that before it's all over and done. We will learn how to coexist with Him, and we will see the benefits of always cooperating with Him. As you can imagine, this is a really big subject. And if I were to try to uncover every detail the Bible reveals to us about the Holy Spirit, it'd take a year's worth of sermons, maybe even more. So that's not my goal. My goal in this series is to simply introduce you to the Holy Spirit so that you can begin to enjoy and reap the benefits from one of the greatest gifts that you have ever been given. So where do I begin? Okay, going to take a strange turn. Where do I begin this series? Strange enough, I think I need to begin by clarifying the purpose of Golden Corner Church. And I want you to stop. What? Give me 10 minutes? Give me 10 minutes. Will you give me 10 minutes? You give me 10 minutes, and I think it's going to start making sense. Some of you may not know this, but Golden Corner Church is not an old church. We're not even 27 years old yet. A friend of mine, and he's a friend with a lot of you, Mark Bagwell, along with his family and a few like-minded believers, started Golden Corner Church in May of 1993. Now, back then, when somebody started a new church, it typically was for one of two reasons. Reason number one, there was a loose cannon somewhere in the community. that felt he should have a following. He tried to assume control of an established church and failed, so he rented himself a storefront building and he started his own little church. Perhaps even his own denomination, the whole deal. Reason number 2, there was a church split. Some congregation came to a point where they couldn't get along. There was an ensuing war that broke out in the church, and in time, half of that group leaves and they start themselves their own church. You can typically identify them. They've almost always got the word free in their name. We're Freedom Fellowship. You know what they're saying? We're free from that bunch we couldn't get along with, huh? Or the word victory is in there somewhere. You know why? Because we're showing them we're going to win this battle. You can see it. Neither was the case with Mark Bagwell. Mark started going to church because he was confident that God was calling him to do so. He met with the leadership of the South Carolina Southern Baptist Convention and he ran this idea by him, and they affirmed what Mark was thinking. They believed that Oconee County needed a brand new Southern Baptist church. So they gave him financial support and they helped him launch Golden Corner Church. God wanted Mark Bagwell to start a church in a county that was already full of churches. Why? Back then, it didn't make a lot of sense to people. However, in hindsight, I think it's starting to make perfect sense. In the early 90s, the leadership of the South Carolina Southern Baptist Convention put a lot of time, energy, and resource into starting brand new churches. They believed that the entire state of South Carolina, not just Oconee County, you stay with me, a little history here, got it? They believed that the entire state of South Carolina needed to be inundated with new churches. What led them to believe that? They recognized something then that most people are just beginning to realize. Most Southern Baptist churches in the state of South Carolina, even Oconee County, had abandoned something and had probably abandoned it permanently. They had abandoned the very purpose of their existence. They had abandoned their mission. What mission are you talking about? Read some verses from the Bible with me. They're found in Matthew chapter 28. We're going to start reading verse 18. Let me set the stage and tell you what's going on. Jesus has been crucified. He's been resurrected. He's called a very important meeting with the 11 men who are going to be the foundation or the leaders of a new creation of his, the church. Now, he knows that in a short period of time, I'm going to ascend back to heaven. So he called this meeting, gathered them around him and said, now I want to be clear. I want to make sure that I have been clear on telling you what you're going to do after I'm gone. Look what he said. Jesus came and told his disciples, I've been given all authority. How much authority? Every doggone bit of it. I've been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Does that about cover it? Jesus said, I got all authority everywhere. That's pretty big. So he said, therefore, here's what I'm commanding you to do. Go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the, hey, Trinity alert, you ready to see this? Baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. In essence, he said, here's what I want you to do. Go win people. You're going to go into the ranks of the unsaved, and you're going to bring them to me. Oh, he said, but it's not going to stop there. Look what he said. Then you're going to teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you, and be sure of this, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. In these verses, Jesus, who is the head of the church, with all authority, established his sole purpose for the church. According to Jesus, the purpose of the church is to carry out his mission. And how do we do that? We help unsaved people accept Christ, and we help saved people follow Christ. That's it. Carrying out the mission of Christ was supposed to be the purpose of the church. However, things changed. At some point in history, and I'm going to think, this is a guess, I'm guessing a lot of this took place in the 20th century. And at some point in our history, most churches made a decision to abandon that mission. We're not going to do that. It became such a foreign concept to reach unsafe people that I can remember Mark telling me after he started Golden Corner, he got a lot of kickback from local pastors. They did not like the fact that Southern Baptist Convention was starting a new Baptist church in Oconee. He said an irate pastor and his wife cornered him one day. And they said, we want to know something. Where are you going to get these people to be a part of this church? You're going to get them from our churches. Never crossed their mind that perhaps there were tens of thousands of unsaved people in Oconee County to be reached. The only thing that could happen is church members could be recycled, and he's going to get some of ours. At some point in the 20th century, the church began to embrace other purposes. I could go into a long list, but I'll tell you the primary one that I witnessed. The average Southern Baptist church in South Carolina and in Oconee County, I guess is where my experience is, they embraced a new purpose, and that was, let's just maintain the status quo. Our mission is just to perpetuate our meetings. We've got to keep the meetings going, and we've got to keep the ministries or the programs of the church going. If we've got a preacher in the pulpit, and if there are people sitting in the seats, and the bills are being paid, mission accomplished. Some of you have been around church for a long time. You're going, that is exactly what happened. He's describing my church, the church I left or the church I grew up. It wasn't about them. It became all about us. You know what this produced? First of all, stagnation. Churches stopped growing. The word church leadership uses churches plateaued. They'd go for years, and nobody would come. Nobody else came. And then stagnation led to decline. Now, let me tell you what. I'm going to tell you, some of you are thinking, this is the most negative human being. No, I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. It hadn't been that long ago. David Shirley, the guy who's over the Southern Baptist Church in the county, shared a statistic with me, and if I can remember correctly, this is what he told me. Now over 90% of Southern Baptist churches in South Carolina have either plateaued and been plateaued for years and years and years, or they're in a state of decline. Over 90%. Once the mission was abandoned, here's what happens. Churches die. It'll take a long time. It'll take decades. But they're dying. In the early 90s, the leadership of our denomination recognized that most Southern Baptist churches in South Carolina had abandoned the mission, and furthermore, the chances of them ever picking that mission up again was slim to none. Using foresight, they looked ahead and anticipated what we see today. I'm not being critical here, but I can state, as a matter of fact, the average church in South Carolina, not all of them, the average church in South Carolina, including Oconee County, is in serious trouble. Rather than breathing a fresh breath of spiritual air into their communities, they are gasping for their next breath. The leaders of the South Carolina Southern Baptist Convention made a decision, and in my opinion, it was a wise one. And this is the way they explained it to me. Rather than expending a lot of time, energy, and money trying to raise the dead, perhaps it would be more productive to give birth to the living. That's a direct quote. You say, what do they mean by that? Rather than trying to get churches who have abandoned the mission to embrace it again, they chose to put their emphasis on starting new churches that were mission-focused from the beginning. As a result, dozens and dozens of new mission-focused churches were started in South Carolina, and one of those mission-focused churches was Golden Corner Church. Now, history lesson over. I said all that to say this. Golden Corner Church exists for one purpose. Not two. Not three. Not 21. This church exists for one purpose. You understand me? One. This church exists to fulfill Christ's mission. Put a period behind that. That's it. We exist to fulfill Christ's mission by helping unsaved people accept Christ and saved people follow Christ. That's it. That is the singular purpose behind everything we do. You know why we meet on Sunday mornings like this? We've got a twofold purpose. If you're sitting here and you've never accepted Christ, I'll tell you, through something we're doing, through the music, through the preaching, through the fellowship, the interaction, man, we are trying to get you to Him. That's it. If you are saved, I'll tell you what we're trying to do through everything we're doing here on a Sunday morning. If you're saved, we're trying to get you to keep following Him. It's the purpose of our kids' ministry. It's the purpose of the Jay Walker student ministry. It's the purpose of our life groups. You know, we want church to be fun, but our purpose is not to entertain you or your kids. We want you to meet people and build great friendships at going to church, but our purpose is not to provide you and your children with additional social opportunities. You got me? We want to grow, but our purpose is not to just become a large church. Our purpose is Christ's mission. The Bible teaches that everybody is looking for something. Here at Go to Church, we believe that everything they're looking for can be found in Jesus. Now, they don't know that. We do. So you know what we do? We help people find what they're looking for. We do our best to help our unsaved family members and friends find Jesus, and then we turn right around and start helping them follow Jesus. Over the past 27 years, we've experienced a measure of success at carrying out Christ's mission, and some of you are living proof of that. God changed your life, but He used this church to do it. I'm thankful for every life that has been changed. And I'm so thankful for the success we've experienced. I think it would do us all good to occasionally look back and celebrate what God has done for and through little old Golden Corner. However, this morning is not really about our past. It's about our future. In the next chapter of our story, Golden Corner Church will carry out Christ's mission with even greater success. I want you to listen to me. I got to repeat that again, okay? I want you to get this. In the next chapter of our story, Golden Corner Church is going to carry out Christ's mission with even greater success. So what do you mean by that? We're going to reach more people than we've ever reached. Pretty crowded here right now. I promise you. We're going to reach more people there. You say, how's this going to happen? You listen to me. I mean, we're at that part now. I want you to get everything I'm saying. How's it going to happen, Ronnie? Someone is about to get involved to a much greater degree. You say, who are you talking about? Someone is about to get involved to a much greater degree, and when he does, it's going to be game on. His increased involvement is going to make a much greater impact. Ronnie, who are you talking about? That's a good question. Let me explain. No church has ever been more successful at executing Christ's mission than the first church. And we can read about them in the book of Acts. The very first time they attempted the mission, they led 3,000 people to Christ. First time. They never done anything like this. First try, Matt. 3,000 people got saved. The Bible said that after that, they started leading people to Christ every day. Every day, somebody in this church was leading somebody to Christ. Somebody was being saved. In Acts chapter 4, we discover the church soon consisted of 5,000 families. Best I can tell, they started with 120 people. Now all of a sudden, they've got 5,000 families. They went from 120 to 5,000, 120 people to 5,000 families, just like that, Ron. In chapter 5, we're told that more and more people were brought to the Lord. The word the Bible uses, crowds of both men and women. In chapter 6, we're told that the number of believers continued to greatly increase. This first church was growing exponentially. And where was all the growth coming from? I mean, had there been a church or two that in Jerusalem having a bad time and people left and they're coming over to this church, or the church at Jerusalem hired a dynamic student pastor and boy, he had things rocking, or they got themselves a new band and people were coming from other. Listen to me, every one of these thousands and thousands of people who came to this church came out of the darkness. They were lost and they got saved. These people were experiencing unprecedented success, and what was the secret to their success? I guess they probably had state-of-the-art facilities, right? Super padded chairs, warm lighting, heat, air, I bet they had one, I bet it was fat. They didn't own a building. They didn't own 1 square foot of land. Well, I guess it was the use of technology, right? I know, had to be social media. Had to be. They must have been real clever at using Facebook, Instagram. No technology, didn't even have a sound system. The preacher screamed. No social media. Well, I bet they were good at studying other churches and borrowing their methodology, their strategies. There was no other church. These folks didn't even have the New Testament. It hadn't been written yet. What was their secret? How were they able to do this so much more effectively than the church of the 21st century? Let me read you a couple of verses. They're found in the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 4 through 5. Once again, Jesus has been crucified. He's resurrected. He's called a meeting with these guys again. I mean, he's getting very, very close to ascending. He said, let me go over this one more time. Let me tell you what I want you to do. Look at this. He said, once when he was eating with them, he commanded them. In other words, he didn't leave this up for a vote. Do not leave Jerusalem until the Father sends you, what are those 2 words? The gift. Don't you dare leave Jerusalem till the Father sends you the gift he promised. As I told you before, John baptized with water, but in a few days you'll be baptized with what is the gift? Who is the gift? The Holy Spirit. Hodge paraphrased, Jesus said, don't you dare attempt this mission until you have received the Holy Spirit. Just hold on, guys. Hold on. Don't pull the trigger yet. You got to wait until you receive the Holy Spirit. Why would he tell them this? Time was wasting. I'm sure people died that day. Why would he tell them? Look at verse 7, Acts chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. You know, the guys kind of overlooked what Jesus said. They began to talk about the end times. You know, instead of reaching people for Christ, we love to talk about the end times. Let's talk a little prophecy. Rather than women, they start talking. Jesus stopped them. Look what he said. Verse number 7, he replied, the Father alone had the authority to set those dates and times, and they are not for you to know. In other words, that's none of your business. Here's your business. But you will receive power. That's a key word. That word means ability. You'll receive ability when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my ability to do what? Be my witnesses. Ability to do what? Telling people about me everywhere. In Jerusalem, throughout Judea, in Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Jesus told the leaders of the first church, wait on the Holy Spirit before launching your first attempt at fulfilling my mission. Now he told them why he told them to wait. They didn't have the ability to accomplish the mission. It wasn't in them yet. The Holy Spirit alone had the ability. And if they would wait on him, he would give them this ability. So that's exactly what they did. For the next 10 days, they met together in prayer and waited. On the 10th day, God kept His promise, and the Holy Spirit exploded onto the scene. He invaded the bodies of every member of that church, and when He did, He gave them an ability they never had before, and they went out and they began to broadcast the news about Jesus Christ. They began to fulfill His mission with great results. And what was the secret to their success? I think the better question is, who was the secret to their success? The Holy Spirit. 59 times in the book of Acts, the Holy Spirit is mentioned. 59 times. Don't ever forget this. I want you to understand something. It's not, when I say that Golden Corner Church is on mission, I'm not saying that there's a few of us here on mission. If you're a part of this church, it means you're on mission. The key to successfully executing the mission of Christ is the Holy Spirit. He's the key. You and I don't have the ability to change a life. We will never be clever enough, gifted enough, persuasive enough to open the eyes of an unsaved friend. We don't have the ability to turn a family member from sin to Jesus. We can't change a coworker's heart. We can't alter anybody's eternal destiny. The ability to fulfill the Great Commission doesn't reside in us at all. Man, that's a key. That is a big thing. You're a person on mission. You're responsible to execute this mission. Yet the ability to fulfill this mission is not in you at all. All the ability resides in the Holy Spirit. And fortunately for others, He resides in you. Here's what's about to happen at Golden Corner Church. As we get to know the Holy Spirit, as we better understand Him, as we become more sensitive to His presence and His voice, as we begin to cooperate with Him more fully, He is going to work through us in greater ways than ever before. And the result will be changed lives, more changed lives than we have ever seen. Does that excite you? I'm the senior pastor here. And one of my responsibilities is kind of vision. You know, Ronnie, you're the guy that kind of stands on the bow of the ship and says, I think we need to go that way, or we need to go that way, kind of anticipating. If somebody asked me, where is Golden Corner Church right now? Here's how I'd answer that question. We're on the brink of a significant move of God. We're on the brink of a significant move of the Holy Spirit of God. For those of you who are visiting, I want you to understand that I just finished a sermon series entitled Restored. The text for that series was Ezekiel 37, verses 1 through 14. In that text, we read about God restoring the army of Israel from nothing but stacks of dry bones. He began this restoration by rebuilding the bodies of the fallen soldiers. It was miraculous. However, when God finished rebuilding them, He wasn't completely finished, Beverly. At Ezekiel's request, the wind blew and breathed new life into those bodies, so that the soldiers stood up on their feet, a great army. I think God has been busy building Golden Corner Church for 27 years. It's been miraculous. It's been so rewarding and exciting. But God isn't finished. You with me? God is not finished. The Spirit of God is about to breathe new life into this church. And when He does, we're going to be changed. And lots of our friends, family members, neighbors, co-workers, they're going to be changed as well. It's going to be epic. Would you stand to your feet with me? If we went back to that last series, you remember that God took His prophet there and there are all these dry bones, and He said, I want you to preach them a sermon. He said, I want you to tell them this. You preach to those bones, you tell them this. I'm about to do something big. I'm going to do something supernatural. I'm going to do something miraculous. You tell them it's coming. It'll be so big that when I'm done, every spectator looking on will go, that had to be God. Is that what He said? You remember the story? We're in it 5 weeks. Tell me, you remember that? Yeah. This morning, I'm getting to play the role of Ezekiel. God has given me a prophetic word. Is that? He sent me to tell you something. We're on the brink of something. We're about to catch a wave. Maybe, Ray, the better word is the wind is going to fill our sails. You know what I mean? There's something coming. God's about to do something. He's going to do something that's so incredible that all of us look back and go, now that had to be God. You write that down. I'll stand by that. Because I was sent here to tell you that. This series we're walking into, we're going to learn our part. What have we got to do to open the door so that that happens? Now, I'm going to let you go, but you got to do something. You got to do something. You can't leave the auditorium until you've done this. And I'm watching. We got people spread out here paying attention. You got to look at two people, and you got to say, it's going to be epic. You do that, you're free to go. I hope you have a great week.